Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome to the City Current Show, where we spotlight individuals and organizations making an impact empowering the good in our community and around the world. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're joined by Zack Orsborn, who has turned his own creative struggles into a powerful platform called Like Really Creative for healing and self-expression. Through workshops, pop-up events like Collage Parties and MUSE, and his creative energy recharge, Zack is helping creatives everywhere find their rhythm again without fear or burnout. Zack, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. And that was an excellent summary of everything I do. That was
Well,
awesome.
well, thank you. And you're doing so many great things. And especially as a creative myself, burnout is a real thing to dive into. And so we're going to talk and mental health as well. We're going to kick off with that. Take us back to that young creative in Mississippi. What were some of your earliest creative outlets? How did you navigate feeling other in your community?
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town in Amory, Mississippi. And I was a very, very creative kid, and people around me did not know what to do with that. I would try to start little clubs on the playground. I would sell bracelets. I would write stories. And I got made fun of for that a lot. So I just kept further retreating and retreating and kind of building a wall around myself. And when I got to high school, I was like, I'm gonna be a little rebellious and be creative no matter what. And I wrote my first novel in high school. I was the editor of the literary magazine, and still I was bullied for that. And when I got to college, I was just like um, trying to be creative, but so overwhelmed by the amount of schoolwork and all the jobs I had to have that I just completely burnt out and lost myself. And, you know, struggled with addiction because of that, struggled with isolation, struggled with hating myself and judging others, and just being so self-absorbed and narrow-minded. Um, but then I was like, wait a second, I deserve to take care of myself. And I got into fitness, I got into meditation, I got into journaling. I found a really good community, and I started every day working towards something for my craft. So I am a writer, a musician, and a visual artist, and just a natural experimenter. So it took a while to figure out, how do I maintain consistent creative energy, which is like the biggest question I had throughout my 20s. Because, when I'm not connected to who I am, I get depressed, I get irritable, anxious. I want to kind of shelter myself. And so finally, I figured out like the four things, which I call the four codes of creative energy, which are community. So surrounding yourself with creative people, no matter what, even if you're like, I don't feel like this. Um, Craft. So doing something for your craft every single day. You don't have to like paint the Mona Lisa, but you
Right.
can uh, do something small, or you can read about your favorite artist. You can watch a YouTube tutorial. And then clarity, which is meditation, journaling, sitting in silence, because the world is so overstimulating that you have to kind of let the ideas bubble up in silence. And then condition, which is taking care of your body. You don't have to run a marathon, but 10 to 30-minute walks or stretching, and doing those things, I like am able to maintain myself without burning out.
I think it's so cool too. I was looking back the other day of how long I've known you, and it's been almost 15 years, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
also just to see the progression of not only your mental health, your creativity, but as an artist and creative, and certainly your mental health and how it has expanded in ways that you're now encouraging and empowering others is really cool to see. And you've described like really creative as sort of a sanctuary. What moment made you realize that this was something bigger than just your own healing itself?
Yeah, oh, that gives me chills. So I started the collage parties in my apartment. I got the idea from my mentor, David Christie, and I went to one like his first one like 4 years ago, and we did it twice, and then it kind of fell off. And I missed that, so I started hosting them at my collage part at my apartment, and I had like 6 or 7 people. I have a super tiny apartment. Um, and then I started the Like Really Creative show, and I was interviewing the owner of Ugly Art Co., which I'm a member of as a collective. It's a collective of artists, and it's a gallery in the Edge District. And I was like, "Hey Anderson, can I do these collage parties at Ugly? How much would that cost?" And he was like, "You got it for free." And I advertised it, and the first one had 60 people, and I was like, "Oh my God." I was thinking like 15 to 20 people. And then last 2 days ago, I had the June collage party, and there was 120 people.
Wow.
And yeah, it's insane. Like, especially like the comments I get are like, "We've been needing this, the way that you are creating a place for connection." And people are like, "I feel healed after this. Like my inner artist is smiling." And like people have made friends through this. I know two people who have come who are now working together on music. Um, I did this thing at Bar DKDC called the Artist Speed Date, which is not a romantic speed date, but who knows, you could find your next love there. But
Exactly.
basically, yeah, I made a list of questions about creativity, and they all rotated and connected. And like the roar of everybody talking and smiling and showing off their art was like, this is it. This is the like, this is what I've always wanted to happen. And like, that was one of the greatest moments of my life.
It's really cool to see also that you're feeding our community what you desperately needed when you were younger. And regardless of age, but it's like you needed that. And now you've created this opportunity for hundreds. And so, which of the four codes would you say is the hardest for creatives to embrace and why?
Ooh. Well, I can speak about myself personally. Like I had figured out the um the condition, clarity, and craft one. Um, and then I had like another burnout, and I was like, something is still missing.
Mhm.
And I had part of the big burnout was because of addiction. And I started going to recovery groups and sharing my story, hearing other people's story. And what I realized, the core theme of my story and everybody's story was fear, overcoming fear, dealing with fear, being held back by fear. And that really resonated with me because I grew up in fear, like because of ultra, ultra conservative churches that was like, you're going to hell for every little thing you do, being bullied for being who I was, and, you know, being in those groups and getting help without you expecting anything in return was like, this is the final piece. Like, this is community. And I started the podcast because I love talking about art. I love talking about artists and figuring out their creative processes. And I would hear myself in them, and it was just like, all right, this is the fourth code. Um, like that was, I think that's when it clicked, was like, that's how you become a whole person. That's how I can become my full self because, I didn't have a strong community growing up, but once I found it, I was like, all right, I can be myself. And I'm mostly myself around other artists and creatives. I feel like I can be my true self.
Mhm. Why do you think it is that so many creatives struggle alone? And clearly, your gatherings help shift that. But it is unique that you have this group of people that are so expressive in their art, yet they struggle so much from mental health or isolation. Is how much of it do you think is based on what others have made them feel like versus what their personalities are and how they express what they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mean this with all the love in the world, but artists are a little weird. They're they have odd habits. I'm reading this book called Wired to Create, and it's the 10 common habits that artists have. And it's it's divergent from the norm. Sometimes we need solitude, sometimes we're so intensely focused, sometimes we get irritable when when we're interrupted, sometimes we're like a child. A lot of artistry comes from connecting to that sense of childlike wonder.
Mhm.
um and we live in a world where artistic, weird, strange ideas are looked at as like, what? And people fear what they've never seen or heard before. And artists just go forward fast with that. And they're like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways. And, you know, there is a link between mental illness and highly creative people. Um, there could be more research done on that, but they're still trying to figure that out. But it's this openness to experience, it's this intuition, it's this like almost like mythical connection that we have to like getting ideas and feeling this like huge rush of passion come through, and it's like the whole world can close out around us.
Yeah, and I think that also goes into like vulnerability too. So what role does vulnerability play in building that creative confidence?
Vulnerability is a big part of that. Um, I've always said that creativity is nothing without community. You need to have a healthy amount of external validation in terms of like just being seen, for who you are, for what you do in a positive way. Um, and I was so scared of vulnerability. I think that's one of the roots of my uh, addiction is like, I need to numb myself so I don't have to feel these feelings. I don't have to have social anxiety. But once I got sober and was like, oh, I can feel things and it actually feels good and I like these feelings and I can practice speaking and I can look people in the eye now. It's like that changed everything for me. And putting my work out there, no matter what stage of the process it is, to me, it's not about the final product, it's about the process. That's what I love the most about art is how you create something from nothing. It's just an idea in your head and it's externalized into the world. That's just like so fascinating to me.
And I think for those listening or watching, you may think, well, I'm not necessarily, I don't call myself a creative, but you still have the head trash and the vulnerability, the social anxiety of presenting in front of a group in a boardroom, or you are terrified of going out into a group and learning from one another because you just would rather stay at home and turn on the TV or whatnot. And so
Yeah.
I think there's so much to learn from creatives for your own self-worth and purpose and growth. And that's what's so cool about the podcast is not only do you learn about these creatives that are like right here in our backyard, but also are doing amazing work and have a story behind it that links to their work deeper. So then you can learn about it and you may find that you relate to them more than you thought you did. And
Mhm.
so you're not just helping artists, you're building a brand. What's been the most surprising thing about launching Like Really Creative?
People actually coming to my events, like I was worried that nobody would show up. And, ever since I've started doing this, so many organizations have reached out to me to ask to partner, where in the past I was reaching out to people and not getting any headway. This is when I was like, thought that I was meant to be a full-time artist. And, I am an artist, but I'm not meant to do it as my career. I'm meant to be a guide to other artists to being their best selves. Ever since I started doing these events and workshops and the podcast, the Brooks has reached out to me. I've done a collage party with the Brooks, Memphis Art Salon, Urban Art Commission. I've connected with the Art Center. Um, just there's some others, but I'm can't think of them at the moment. But like every week, I'm getting reached out to like connect with an organization, and it's so validating. And it's like, okay, I'm really doing something. Like this is my real purpose, and I think that's been the most surprising part. And like being on the cover of Focus magazine, that was crazy. I didn't know that was happening. Um, and getting in the Daily Memphian, having my own personality profile was amazing because, I uh, got my degree in journalism and I've interviewed so many people throughout my career, and it's like I have my own story now, and that blew me away that someone wanted to write about me and I didn't have to like reach out. And it's just like I have to pinch myself sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, just think about your younger 20 self looking forward to what you're able to accomplish now, and that's such a huge accomplishment. And now looking even forward, what's your dream for Like Really Creative over the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, so right now I'm writing a book called Charging Up Your Creative Energy, and it's part memoir, part manual about how to implement the four codes of creative energy. And the memoir part goes like back from the very beginning, about how I was like as a creative kid, and how I had two big burnouts, big burnout one, big burnout two, and how I experimented to find out how to use these four codes. And I thought the memoir part was very important because in order to um, find out your purpose, you have to do some deep self-evaluation and really figure out your story to find out the ups and downs of it and kind of excavate your life to see how you can move forward and experiment in making yourself a better person. So, I'm writing the memoir part right now and doing a lot of research about creativity, creative people, the science of creativity. It's been so fun. Like I could, I'm like, I need a sabbatical. I could do this for months and months. It's like I look forward to waking up and seeing what I can learn about creativity because there's so much science out there about it. I can read an artist biography for hours. It's just so once I get the book out, I want to either self-publish or shop it around. I've self-published before. I've written a few novels and self-published those. But I've always had the dream of like having an agent and, you know, having it nationally sold in stores. And eventually I want to do creativity coaching, like one-on-one coaching with creatives to help them implement the four codes and to just find out, how to help them maintain consistent creative energy. because I hear that a lot is like, man, I was just like, I can't stay consistent enough because, artists, they'll get excited about something and they'll just like burn through all their energy.
Mhm.
But there are ways to be creative consistently without burning out.
I just know so many creatives that could benefit from a creativity coach. And I think that's such a brilliant way to bring your passion and your expertise to then help others thrive. And then using those four codes to, for the person that's listening who feels disconnected from their creativity, what's the first small step you'd encourage them to take today?
I would definitely say come to the collage party. It's a low stakes kind of event. Like you're doing something with your hands. Like if you're scared of small talk or being around people, you just sit wherever you want and listen to the conversation around you. The thing I love about collage is I have all these vintage magazines and materials and art books, and you really can like explore what you like through that. You don't have to think about a product. You pick what you like, and that helps you build your confidence of like, okay, this is what I like. I'm gonna make something that represents me. Um, I do the collage parties every month, every fourth Wednesday at Ugly Art Co. And I connect with a artist in the community who makes a curated playlist. And then I'll also connect with another artist to bring materials. Like the collage party 2 months ago, someone Floorline brought pressed flowers, and so we had like a flower themed collage
Cool.
party,
Yeah.
and a DJ trio made the playlist, and so every month is completely different. I have new materials, and you have the option of getting a collage kit, and there's all kinds of perks you can get through different support tiers, and it's really fun. Everybody's smiling, having a good time, and I highly recommend coming to one.
Okay, so how can people support your efforts? How can they learn more about like really creative, but then either monetarily, through volunteer, through advocacy? How can they support like really creative?
Yeah, so if you go to likereallycreative.com, there's a support button. So you can do a one-time donation, you can do a monthly donation. Um, I always need volunteers to help set up and break down the collage parties. You can reach out to me at zach@likereallycreative.com. You can find out what we're up to on Instagram on Like Really Creative. I'm very active on there. I do photo shoots of creatives around the town. We have the podcast. We have people doing the 7-day creative energy recharge. There's all kinds of content and fun stuff to learn on our Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you so much for helping creatives everywhere find their rhythm again without fear or burnout. Creating Like Really Creative is such a huge retrospective on what you needed when you were younger, but now you're helping hundreds. So living in that purpose, I think, is so fulfilling and not only helps with your mental health, but is helping so many others be able to live their best life. So thanks for coming on the show, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate you and all the stuff that City Current does. It's amazing. So thank you.